And I'm Bill Bolton, and I'm here with Jenn.
Alford-Teaster.
I always like mess up your name.
That's fine.
And Jenn Teaster is not adequate. But anyway, we're two Senate candidates, and I'm running in Senate District 2.
I'm running in New Hampshire Senate District 8.
And they may not be the most neighborly districts.
Nope.
But we both ran in 2018, and we both had a very slim loss.
Yes.
And we're doing it again.
We are doing it again. And also, Bill and I became friends because, I mean, look at us.
Yeah, like the Bobbsey twins. We're almost exactly the same.
We're exactly the same. No, we both have predominantly rural districts. A lot of the issues facing District 8 are similar issues facing District 2. And so we've, hope to become teammates at the Senate and be able to advocate for issues around broadband and public education. So that's something that has brought us closer together as candidates, and hopefully we'll be able to serve as senators together.
And we're both running in the wackiest election there ever was.
That's
and
right.
We're trying to deal with that by at least accommodating the fact that we can't go knock doors like we used to.
Which was my favorite.
Yeah, well, I know you announced that during a meeting one time, that it was to the Chairman Buckley that
Yes.
you missed that. So yeah,
Chairman Buckley, I still miss canvassing.
I do as well.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was probably the most fun part because my campaign manager makes me do a bunch of stupid calls that, I shouldn't say that, but we knock on, last time we actually knocked on 4,000 doors.
Wow.
And the number keeps on going higher and higher, but this is the number that Josh Roche, my old campaign manager, gave me on his way out.
Miss you, Josh Roche.
Who is down in New Jersey right now.
Yes.
On a campaign for Amy Kennedy, who's running in the Southern District down there.
Yes.
So.
Well, can you, for those listening and for my benefit and the benefit of my campaign manager who's visiting as well, talk to us about the geography of Senate District 2?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you. How many towns?
There are 27 towns. Yeah, it's not the largest one. As Sue Ford would tell you, she's running in District 1. They have actually, I think, 57 or 58. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's. I was thinking the ex-senator from that district was telling someone, relating the story that he lost in 8 towns. And the guy was saying, oh, gee, that's terrible. I said, yeah, but I won 50. So.
It's a balance.
Yep. If I can lose 8 towns in District 2, that'd be okay with me as well. Mm-hmm. So, and we lost by about 1.5%. I don't know if you had the similar kind of loss.
About 2%.
And the percentage was probably the lowest that a Democrat had lost since the area was redistricted back in 2011. Mm-hmm. So I think I have a pretty good shot, and you do as well. Mm-hmm. And I think both of our focuses is on public health. Yep. and public health safety. In fact, I'm the chair of the Plymouth Select Board, and just a couple of nights ago we ended up passing a mask ordinance for the town, and we're one of probably 7 in the state so far. Mm-hmm. And the unfortunate part is that the governor has not done a statewide mask ordinance, and we're surrounded by states that do. So. Being an island in the midst of public health preparedness is not a really good thing to do.
No.
And now we leave it up to individual towns to fight it out with their citizenry, and it's just a lot better if it was just wholesale.
Yes, agreed. State. Just to augment that, for those who are watching, I'm a public health scientist. I work at the Geisel School of Medicine in the North Cotton Cancer Center. And the reason why masking is so important and to have a mask mandate is so important is because compliance will be challenging, but if you mandate it, you'll have a higher compliance rate than if you don't mandate it. So people begin to, especially in a prolonged public health circumstance emergency like this one, people are starting to experience some fatigue around implementing these very easy and low-cost measures, wearing a mask, washing your hands, not touching your face, staying home if you're sick. So people... with the mask mandate, it would ensure compliance was higher than if we don't mandate it. And you're starting to see that everywhere you go. On our way up here from Senate District 8, we'd gone through a few small towns, and you'd see certain towns, people weren't wearing them, they weren't adhering to social distancing. Physical distancing is the preference to be called now, because we're not socially distant, emotionally distant, we're physically distant. but then in other towns, people will be wearing masks. And so, masking stops this heavy, wet virus from, being shared across from individuals. So you can sit within 3 feet of one another when you're having a mask on, and it ensures the safety of those around you if you were asymptomatic as an individual. So, it's a very easy, low-cost thing to do, and so it would make sense if Governor Sununu would implement a mandate. But
Okay,
we've yet to see what.
we agree.
Yes, I just wanted to offer the augmented public health messaging. It's a public service announcement. Bill. This isn't for you. This is for these people.
Oh, thank you. It's much appreciated by all. So one of the things that is the outcome of masking is that we're going to have an election here pretty soon.
Yeah.
And we're going to have the primary that's coming up in September, and our town clerk, I'm pretty sure that yours is as well, is preparing for that
I'm
day.
a moderator of the checklist in
Okay.
Sutton, so we've been having weekly meetings about the infection control process.
That's really interesting, actually. So you get to control the measures that need to be taken in the voting area itself.
So we've
with the
been
town
offered
clerk?
some guidance from the Secretary of State's office
Yeah.
and some supplies in order to protect us and the voters. I don't know if it's similar here in Plymouth, but in Sutton we have an older volunteer population, so
Yes.
folks are more at risk
Mhm.
who are working in the polls. So we have additional supplies like face shields for, we're getting a gallon of sanitizer to be spread across the primary and the general bottles that will be distributed to us as well. And we've been giving guidance, but nothing is mandated. So, but everyone, there are 3 of us who are supervisors of the checklist, and then we have a moderator. We all take it very seriously because our population is much older. So we have about 1,800 registered voters in Sutton. And we have come up with a variety of scenarios for how to move people through our very small town hall. We're removing all the furniture. We have a ramp which we could potentially have some people outside because the masks are not mandated. If there are individuals who are absolutely adamant against it, we're going to use a special room for them, and so they can, we're not expecting people to be problematic in that regard, but if there is, because we wouldn't deny somebody the right to vote. So yeah, we've been meeting weekly and then having emails back and forth about the best approach to be able to maintain safety and infection control.
So thankfully we have our polls at the elementary school. So it's not like a small area, but because PSU is theoretically going to be back in session, and they have all their students sign an agreement that they shall wear a mask on campus or in any situation that's like, and we also have a mask ordinance that basically insists that they wear a mask, in the polls. So we were just told by the group that was in opposition to the mask ordinance that the accommodation that was going to be done was that you can vote, but since we can't separate or duplicate the checklist, that's within the polling area. And we're going to set up a tent outside the elementary school with someone allowing people to vote absentee. And that was rather firmly kind of rejected by at least some group of people. Hopefully that won't be an issue, but we're still allowing everyone to vote.
Yeah.
It's just in a different manner.
Yes.
And it's still working through details, but in fact, it's kind of very fortunate that PSU is actually coming back into session. A very interested population. They like to, participate in the, the voting process, and it's hopefully they have such a plan that's so tight as far as when and where they wear masks and how they would separate, classes into both online and real time. So I think they've at least seen, in fact, it's very interesting for Don Burks, who's the president of PSU. His sister is Deborah Burks. So she's down in, consulting with the president.
Oh.
So Debbie Burks and Fauci used to be behind.
Oh right, yes. Sorry,
The
out of
president.
context
Yep.
reference. I was like, what? Yeah.
So she's been, I guess, very active in reviewing the plans that PSU has been coming up with, and so we've pretty much got a national expert working on our reopening.
Well, and what is so interesting about that is, so yeah, Dr. Birx can make recommendations, but if they're not mandated, then it's really left up to the individuals to decide how to implement it, and that's where our vulnerabilities exist. So for, I think for the reopening, I feel like the public health measures are so low cost. I mean, wear a mask, physically distance, and stay home if you're sick. Don't touch your eyes, wash your hands. Like, those are so low cost. They're a heck of a lot less expensive than being ventilated.
Yes.
Or intubated. That's for sure.
Yep.
So I don't, for me, I think when people are talking about whether or not they would wear a mask or the circumstances for which they do, it's like, well, consider the alternative, and I'd say, I'm a relatively I'm a healthy person, but I have moderate asthma, and so I'm in a risk category. I mean, aside from that, I don't want to make anybody else sick. So I mean, it's part of, like, I feel like when someone's wearing a mask in public, it's like them signaling, I care about you as my community member, because the mask is really about your communities, and your community members, not so much about yourself. So that's something that as a public health scientist, it makes a lot of sense, but I'm always a little surprised when I don't see folks doing it. But hopefully we'll have a higher compliance rate. I mean, younger people seem to be more likely to, especially for your district, be wearing masks as they should be.
Yep.
So are you working on the absentee voting in New Hampshire?
Actually, it was kind of interesting. I had a fundraiser with Annie Custer last night.
Excellent.
And, we were basically strongly recommending absentee voting. And making the process easier by publicizing it and getting the form out, making sure that people know where the form is. There's also an online version where you can fill it out while you're online and submit it to your town clerk. So the process is very easy. And then we were encouraging that. However, Annie ended up not through like ice water on it, but because of the issues with the post office and postal services, and the fact that certain operations of the post office were being cut back for efficiency reasons or whatever, but they may create an issue where most states have a requirement that an absentee ballot shall be received on the day, at least by the day of the election. And it looks like there may not be any assurances if you start sending them out late that they'll be there.
Yes.
So she was advocating for actually bringing the absentee ballot to the town clerk, dropping it off, vote in person with the town clerk. If you have a concern about going to the poll, eliminate the, I guess, the exposure that you might have, and get an absentee ballot, fill it out, bring it to the town clerk, and you can avoid the disappointment of having your ballot just being lost in the mails. So
yeah, so that's something I've been sharing with folks in my district, is that if you're going to vote from home, if you're going to do this and do it remotely, do it now. So because there's just like a two-step process to it. You have to fill out the application. Now the form actually allows you to put for the primary and the general, indicate that you are voting from home because of COVID. And so what happens if you mail that in and there's something missing, which this, again, for the benefit of our viewers, that you will have a period of time to curate or fix the application. So the idea is that if you're going to do it, and if you're committed to doing that, doing it now. And then, so if you have any issues, you can address them sooner than later. And then with the ballot, when you mail it in, to ensure and make sure that you sign the back of the ballot. So sign the back of the envelope when you mail it in, because that's another concern. I could say from our small, tiny town, Sutton, we are seeing about the same amount of folks applying for absentee ballots as we have in non-pandemic years.
okay.
So, and I don't know if that's just because we're a relatively small town and older town. Some of the folks who vote absentee are functionally limited. So, our population is much smaller than Plymouth. But if you are planning on voting from home, to do it soon. And if you need information, you can go to voteinnh.com or org, voteinnh.org. And if you have questions, you can call the voter protection hotline, which is 603-GO-AND-VOTE. And they are open from 9 to 6 every day. And after hours, they take messages and they will return your call. And I can say this because I've called them and asked them questions about the process of voting absentee, because I wanted to make sure that when I was talking to people as a supervisor of the checklist, which I register new voters, and we just went through and processed voters who have moved yesterday. I want to be as up to date about the information as possible. So they were great. Picked up the phone, talked for about 30 minutes, didn't rush me through, answered all my questions. So if you have questions about voting absentee, to call. And to have faith that if you do this process now and you do it well, your ballot will be received and you will be able to vote, which I hope you vote for my friend, Bill Bolton.
And Jenn Alford-Teaster too. Hey, speaking of which, so if you're the, what role can you play if you're also a candidate on the ballot?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So, because I had asked beforehand, I was recruited because I've come and helped do like counting and stuff. And we have a small town and there are not very many people who are active. A lot of the folks who come in to do the counting are, high school students or whatever. So our moderator asked me if I was willing to be a supervisor. And so he had checked with the Secretary of State. I cannot count my race.
Yeah.
And so, and when I'm working as a supervisor, so I go in every week. We've been going in every week to, register new voters and whatnot. Like, I'm just Jen. Like we don't talk about my campaign. We don't talk about the campaign while I'm in town hall. Like, all of that is separate from me as a resident of Sutton. So, I'm not permitted to count my race. When I come and volunteer at for the primary and then also the general. If this were a normal campaign year, I wouldn't even be at the, but I want to be able to help out because I'm younger and, have fewer health concerns than some of our older volunteers. So, so the only stipulation is I don't count my race, and seem fair to me.
Yeah, our town clerk wants all the selectmen there all day. Usually we have like a 2-hour stint or something like that, and so I'm not certain if I can do that. I'm not sure if I will be involved in like visibility, which campaign people tend to go to different towns to bolster, get out the vote and make sure that everyone's aware that we're here. And
yes.
So I don't know what
I think the staging around that will largely be similar. I don't know. In the last campaign, we had a lot of volunteers. I did go around to every poll. Every poll I could go to.
All right, how many towns are in your district?
24.
Oh, okay, well, I win.
This guy, always with the competitions. Yes,
that's
Bill,
pretty
you
impressive.
Win. You're an impressive man.
Thank you.
I bow to your greatness.
I'd shake hands with you, but I can't.
Yeah, I
so.
know. Whatever, it's fine.
All right, so enough of the voting.
Yes.
Let's find another issue.
I got lots of issues, Bill. You sure you want to go there? Do we want to do this on screen?
Yeah, where's Andrew? Make shut this off. No. So, what issues do you think you're going for? Not do you think, but what issues are you focusing on?
Well, same from 2018. So one of the things, so I'm knee deep in COVID work right now because I work in a medical center. And so we've been doing work on looking at the expansion and proliferation of the use of telemedicine and telehealth in the era of COVID as how we can then apply it towards cancer care post-pandemic. So
what goes hand in hand with telemedicine?
Broadband.
Which is one of my 2018 issues, and it's still
it remains an issue,
and with everybody.
It remains an issue, and it doesn't just affect our ability to deliver care to the most rural and isolated communities. It also affects our ability to deliver, in the era of pandemic, education, and also allow people to be able to work from home. So these issues existed prior to the pandemic. They're only magnified during the pandemic, right? So, yes, we share this passion and drive to make sure that people have access to the internet for these things. So would you like to elaborate for your constituents?
I'm still, focused on giving broadband to everybody that currently doesn't have it. And actually, the governor allocated $50 million of CARES funds to contract with providers to make sure that, the intent was to make sure that everyone that was underserved would be served by December 30th of this year. And that couldn't happen. It didn't happen. Apparently, there were 16 million of the 50 million that was allocated in a couple of projects that were awarded, and it doesn't basically take up the amount of like underserved people there are in the state. So we're going to be faced with unless, actually Annie Custer was involved in this as well, unless she can work out or work with the Senate to at least create an extension on the monies that were allocated, then there will still remain a large portion of New Hampshire that will be underserved. And we're facing a fall that's probably going to be a rather bad disease, fall. We'll have like flu coming in as well as a COVID outbreak again, and it's going to be kind of hard to control that while kids will still be wanting to learn, or ill people want to have telemedicine delivered to their house. So it's going to be kind of critical, not kind of. And the fact that the governor allocated 50 million and actually only 16 million is going to be actually utilized, compare that with Vermont, where they allocated 200 million, to do very similar actions. And they were more built out than we were. So, I think that's kind of a disappointing outcome of, how we are preparing for
I also
COVID.
would like, as potential senators, to really be more proactive, because if we had been proactive about this issue that we have known for a long time,
Decades.
we would have been in a better position when this occurred to be able to respond to the needs of our constituents. So if we weren't relying on a pandemic to force our elected officials to do the work they knew needed to be done, we'd be in a better situation now, right? So like that's one of the things I find extremely problematic about the cheerleading around getting these funds now. It's like, well, you've known this for decades. You've known that this is a critical issue in our rural communities. You could have and should have delivered on it sooner. And that's something where I feel like that's sort of the difference between us and our competitors, right? Like, we not only care about these issues and are well aware of them, we want to address them before it becomes so problematic that people are hamstrung in their ability to earn an income, teach their kids, and to get health care, right? I mean, the idea is to be proactive, not reactive, which is what our government is doing right now.
That's it.
And so I celebrate the additional funding, and bringing it in by the end of the year completely erases the lost wages for individuals who are working from home for 6 months, right? So to me, it's great. We should celebrate this. I'm very glad that I know some of our most rural and isolated communities are getting these funds, like Leominster and Washington. But what I find problematic is the celebration that this is a known issue we had before and you didn't bring the funds in beforehand. So for me, it's about continuing to keep the heat on, because it's not enough. Continuing to keep the heat on our elected officials, and hopefully we'll be those elected officials, to be able to fully deliver on that promise that our communities need in order to meet these needs.
And one shout out to the New Hampshire Athletic Cooperative for the fact that they serve all of the families in District 2. And they had a recent election where they had on the ballot the focus, or changing the mission to accommodate broadband. And actually that item voted down. It lost by like 7 votes or something like that. And what the co-op decided to do anyway is to go forward with a broadband office. And they allocated $1 million to get that started, and their intent is to basically do what the governor's trying to do, and just roll out broadband, or at least tie in people with services with people that don't have it, or also provide services. So it's pretty exciting that they kind of took up the gauntlet.
Yes.
And I hope them that's success.
Yes.
And
we should be supporting businesses who meet the needs of the communities. And I think too, one of the things we talk about as researchers about looking. I mean, we're looking at a very narrow aspect of the delivery of telehealth and telemedicine and the expansion of broadband. But this has implications in other ways. I mean, we're in a prolonged public health emergency, which is forcing us to become accustomed to working from home, which is now forcing businesses to reconsider their models for how they manage and provide infrastructure for employees. So we may actually begin to see people more moving into the rural and small town areas because they're able to work remotely. So this is a long-term economic approach as well. So for me, I think this investment now makes sense, but we should continue to push on this so we can make it possible for people who are living in rural communities to have jobs where they can work remotely and then continue to enjoy the lifestyle that they like in rural communities, which I know you and I are both very outdoorsy.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Our families like to hike and, get out in the woods.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Do you have critters in your yard? What was the last critter that came through your yard? I mean, besides a squirrel.
Oh, yeah, man, there's tons of squirrels. So actually, I think probably a bear.
Really? Recently?
I didn't see it personally, but my dog sure did. And we, in fact, I saw a bear in our yard not too long ago.
Yeah.
And we have a bird feeder that I bring in at night.
Yeah, that's wise. I mean, the animals in my neighborhood, because I don't know what your neighborhood's like, but I just have a couple of houses on my road. They're so just like nonchalant. Like I'll be out on the lawn having a coffee, a bear will just like walk through the driveway and like look at me and then just move along. Like they're very nonchalant. Mm-hmm. Is this the case for yours?
Yeah. And we had chickens at one point.
Yeah, I don't keep chickens for that reason.
Yeah,
because I want them to stay nonchalant. And if there's food there, they're not nonchalant.
So I really like the chickens. The kids like the chickens. Yeah. But then
And they eat ticks too.
Well, I guess they eat ticks. I was thinking about like, what's the African, what are they?
The beetles?
No, there's a bird.
Oh.
And they're good, really good tick eaters.
The chicken bird. The African chicken. I know which one you're.
The chicken bird. Yeah, they're good at eating ticks. Yep.
I know which one you're talking about. It's got like the fur, like the plume. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a baby turkey. Actually,
yes. I know which one you're talking about.
Well, I don't know why I was going there, but anyway,
the ticks.
we got the chickens that were great with eggs and such. The kids loved them. I loved them.
Yeah.
And then I went away on a business trip, and apparently a bear tried to get into the coop, and you can still see like bear prints, trying to rip in.
Yeah.
And then over the next several nights, he started knocking off chickens.
Yeah.
And the last night there was only one chicken. When I came home, there was one chicken left.
Yeah. Some close friends of ours who lived down the street, they had about 16 chickens, and there was like a brutal slaughtering by a couple of the bears. And so I'm just like, I'm not having any of that. So, and plus I have an Australian Shepherd who will herd everything under the sun. So I'm like, I can only imagine what it would be like with a couple of chickens in the yard. She'd just constantly be bossing.
Like herding bears, but probably not. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, but yeah, that's part of why I love living in Sutton, though, is because we've had yearling moose. They're kind of dopey. They just like wander around until they figure themselves out. So we've had them in our yard, and that's really something. We had a bobcat recently who was injured, and so that was not great. So it was kind of limping around the yard, but
Well, this is a nice discussion.
This is a nice discussion.
Yeah, I was just trying to think like moose. We this is terribly important, but we used to have like
important,
we were out shooting baskets with the kids and stuff in a driveway, and you hear like clop, 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 and you see this moose trotting up the road.
Yeah.
It seems kind of odd.
No, it's great. That's why we like to live where we live.
Of course, they went through our gardens and stuff too,
but
really haven't seen very many moose lately.
Yeah.
At least around our house, but
I see evidence of them. I've seen their hoof prints when I'm in the woods, and could hear
scat.
The scat. Yes.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. These are things about living in our districts that are really wonderful, and that's why we cherish it, and that's the thing we share with our neighbors and families and friends. So. And
I live in Plymouth, and I live a mile and a half outside of town, and it's basically in the woods.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's nice. Bill, it's been a real pleasure being here with you today. Is there anything you'd like to say as we conclude? Would you like to give folks your website and
Jen, first of all, you're amazing. I'm very pleased that you came up to
stop, really.
to do this with me. I mean, I think this probably is a start of something that should be repeated, though.
Agreed.
We'll have to do it sometime soon. But anyway, please, if you're interested in my campaign,
I am.
Check out my website.
Which is?
www.billbolton4senate, and you have to spell out the 4senate.com.
Okay, so Bill, the number 4.
No, Bill Bolton, 4 FOR.
Okay, yeah.
Senate. I've only got 5 minutes. .com.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
You gotta spell it out. Like mine's the same as Jenn, Jenn, 4 NH.com.
The letter.
The number 4. Yeah, so you gotta say it. Jenn, Jenn, the number 4 NH.com.
Very
Jenn
good.
Jenn4nh.com.
Well,
very easy.
check
And
it
then-
out. Yeah.
And then if people want to contribute to you, do they go through your website?
I have an Act Blue, but they can see that on the website
Excellent,
as well.
excellent. So this is my call to action on behalf of Bill Bolton for State Senate District 2. Please, if you're going to vote absentee, please fill out your application now and ensure to get it in and make sure that you're able to cure it if there are errors on it, which hopefully there will not be, and then submit your ballot in advance. And please vote for Bill Bolton, talk about Bill Bolton, and let your friends and family know what a great candidate he is.
And for Jenn Alford-Teaster, you need to get out the vote. You need to get your absentee ballot in. You also need to go out and volunteer for.
That's right.
Make some phone calls. Get on social media. And just be prepared to vote in the general election because we both don't have primaries. We got plenty of time to do this, and we appreciate your help.
That's right. Write letters to the editor, tell your friends, tell your family. Bill Bolton, Senate District 2.
Jenn Alford-Teaster,
District 8.
Senate District 8. I knew that. I knew it.
You know it, you know it.